Now, let's take a look at a little more challenging depreciation method. Now, this is a depreciation method here. And I'm going to tell you guys right now, this is a challenging one right here. This is one that some students definitely do have an issue with. Now, I think it really all comes down to the formula being used, because the formula is definitely going to be different than units of production or straight line. Now, what we're going to do here, this is the double declining balance. Now, this is an accelerated depreciation where you're going to expense more of the asset's cost at the start of the asset's life and less at the end. So rather than having a nice even amount of depreciation expense like you do with straight line, you're really going to have much more depreciation expense in the first year. But as we get towards the end of its life, the end of its useful life, the depreciation expense is going to be a lot lower than straight line. Okay? So when we're looking at accelerated depreciation methods, really the one that we look at is the double declining balance. Now, honestly, the double declining balance method has been around for a long time. And I call it the DDB method instead of calling it double declining balance. So if you hear me call it DDB, it's also the double declining balance method. So don't worry about that. Now, double declining balance method, what does it do? It's going to multiply an asset's decreasing book value by a constant percentage that is twice the straight line rate. Whoa, what does that mean? Well, let's take a look at this. Now, the double declining balance is going to be this. It's always the cost minus the accumulated depreciation or the book value of the asset, basically times 2 divided by its useful life. So in this case here, for the first year of the truck, we've got $41,000. The accumulated depreciation on the truck is 0, and that's from the start of the year or when we purchased the asset. So there's no accumulated depreciation. Again, we'll multiply that times 2 and times 1 divided by useful life. And again, I'm coming up with a double declining balance depreciation amount of $16,400. It's a lot there. Now, in the second year, I'm going to take my cost, this time times my new accumulated depreciation, which in this case is going to be $16,400. Again, I'll multiply that times 2 times 1 divided by 5. And in year 2, I'm going to come up with depreciation expense of $9,840. So that's a lot less than what we had in the first year. Now, moving on with this, looking here, you could see that each year my book value of the asset is going to go down by the asset cost minus the new beginning accumulated depreciation. So my book value is always going to go down, and that book value amount is always going to be multiplied by the new DDB rate that's out there. And so my depreciation is really going to go down. Now, when we get down to the final year, that's when students have a big time issue with this, and that's when what we've got to do here is this. When we do our final year's accumulated depreciation expense, in fact, we really don't even have to do that, because the one thing that we can't do is we can never have a higher accumulated depreciation than the depreciable cost of the asset. Now, in double declining, this is the only time that depreciable cost is brought up. And that's when your cost, the asset cost minus your residual value, can never be, or accumulated depreciation can never be more than the depreciable cost of the asset cost minus its residual value. So in this case here, with the depreciation expense, it's started in at $4,314. We can't go any higher in depreciation expense than that amount in year 5, because my accumulated depreciation, anything higher will bring a higher accumulated depreciation, and that would be more than my asset cost minus the residual value. Likewise, on the book value over here, the book value can never go below the residual value. So again, if we computed out depreciation expense using DDB, we're probably going to get a higher number than $4,314. We cannot take any more than $3,014. Now, number 10, the cost of an asset is $1,070,000 and its residual value is $220,000. The estimated useful life is 10 years. Calculate the depreciation for the first year using the double declining balance method of depreciation. So in this case here, I'm going to take $1,070,000 minus beginning accumulated depreciation of 0, and I'm going to multiply that times 2 for the 2 years, times 1 divided by 10. And I'm going to throw the numbers into the formula, and I'm going to come out with the first year's depreciation using DDB of $214,000. The correct answer is B on this one. Number 11, the cost of an asset is $1,020,000. Its residual value is $160,000. Now, this time the estimated useful life is 5 years. Calculate depreciation for the second year using DDB. Well, in this case here, the formula is going to be cost minus accumulated depreciation times 2 times 1 divided by useful life. So for the first year, I've got an asset of $1,020,000 minus 0 accumulated depreciation times 2 times 1 divided by 5. And so my first year's depreciation is $408,000. Now for the second year, I'm going to take my cost minus my new beginning accumulated depreciation, this time of $408,000, multiply that times 2, times 1 divided by 5, and so my depreciation expense for the second year is going to be $244,800, and that's D.